Lay it all down. So, a funny thing happened on the way to this talk. I came to meditation. I always try to come to meditation, and Eric Borg, well, that's funny, another practitioner intern led the meditation brilliantly. And he did something, he set up the meditation in such a way that I heard it. I heard him telling me that there was nothing I could do about my past. There was nothing I could do about the future. And in fact, there was nothing to do about this present moment other than to just drop it all, let it go. And somehow, because I very often, I don't know about you, sit in meditation with 1,000 things on my mind. And my job in meditation is to not think about those 1,000 things. That's meditation for me. This was different because this brilliant, beautiful man said it a different way, and I heard it, and I became unbound. I was not binded, if that's the right word, I was not bound to my past or binded to my future. I was just just like a piece of Jell-O sitting in my chair. And then he read an Abraham Hicks quote that was brilliant, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful meditation. So I'm sitting there, and I was just, when we came out of it, I was like, that's exactly what this whole talk is about, getting us to that place. And, I will stand here and talk for the next 45 to 50 minutes, for the next 20 minutes. But ultimately, that's all I want to get you to. That's my aim, to get us all there, to that place. And it is intellectual sometimes because we need to hear what we need to hear. So I want to start with the very first lyrics of Gary's song, which is just, open your mind. Now, musicians and writers, they have a way of saying sacred things that are not meant to be sacred necessarily, but they land there. That's why one of the big themes of this center is enlightenment, bless you, enlightenment through entertainment. Because I think it's so important for the entertainment in the world to also be enlightening. And I can be enlightened by anything. I mean, it can be something so far out, but I still get something very spiritual out of it. I see spirituality everywhere. So when Gary says, open your mind, he's saying the same thing Ernest Holmes says when Ernest Holmes says this: I have only to open the portals of my soul and accept the life that is mine to live. Open your mind, open the portals of your soul, and accept the life that is yours to live. And was that not exactly what Sean Scanlon just spoke of? And I remember when he said to me, he said, you know what? Because we talked about worry one week in class, and he said, I got to be done worrying. If I could get out of the way of worry, imagine what would happen. And to get away from worry, to drop worry, to not be worried. First of all, if you worry, you got to actually ask yourself, what are you worrying about? And what is it that you are holding in place that keeps you worrying? Because to be on principle would mean to know who you are. And if I know I'm God, do you think God does a lot of worrying? Well, yeah, when you do it. But the perfection that you are does not need to worry. So it's really important for us to open our minds, open our hearts, open our souls. And as Ernest Holmes says, if you are willing to open the portals of your soul, then you can just accept the life that is yours to live. And some of us don't even know what that is. What is my life to live? As Sean also said, very often we are trying to tell life how we're supposed to show up. We're trying to tell life, we want it just like this, and it better be in pink. I say pink because it's one of my least favorite colors. And we try to tell life what to do, and yet all we need to do is get out of the way and open the portals of our soul to allow life to live us. And then you get a Monday, Wednesday, Friday job. You get a job on Monday, one on Wednesday that's better, and then Friday just eclipses all of it. That's how it works. We just get so invested, so involved in the stress and strain of being the human willpower machine. Right? We're trying so hard to will it into the way we want it to be. So the second line in Gary's song, and as I said this morning, I had a lump in my throat because it really does touch me. And I have it again. Oh, unfold your heart. Unfold your heart. What a beautiful image. Here's the thing about our hearts in terms of consciousness. Something happens, hurts us, we close, and we fold up our heart a little bit. Then something happens, a disappointment, we fold it again. Now it's smaller. And then something else happens that we're not happy about, and it's smaller and smaller and smaller until we have folded our hearts so tight that we are not open. How can we love only when we only have a portion of our heart left to love with? So, beautiful lyric. We have to start unfolding our hearts, literally being unbound to everything that ever made it closed up. That's what love only is all about. Trying to live love only, that is a lifelong process. I just turned into a Canadian. A lifelong process. I was talking to Jonathan Zenz yesterday. Every time he says process, I'm like, you still from here? And I'm sure you're watching tonight in your nice little home in Toronto, so there's your process. So, the next lyric he has is, go deeper still until you come unwound. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I am very much unwound. Would you say? None of you know me. I just met you tonight. Unplugged, unwound, but I am kind of unwound. I am literally whatever. Really, I used to do that to my kids when they were little. I'd go, it's W-E, whatever. Until they started doing it back to me, and I was like, never teach them what you don't want to see back. So I am very unwound in terms of I tend to let things really flow through me. To be unwound, it means that you have to be willing to let go of all of that, not be so invested in this that it's driving you crazy, and literally just let life play through you. So go deeper still until you come unwound. The deeper part is what I want to talk about. How do we take this teaching deeper? How do we take this science and make it deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper? Now, I can tell you in classes, that's exactly what happens. When I'm teaching a class, when it's a 2 or 3 hour class, we tend to go very deep, and certainly the practitioner class goes deeper still because we question everything. Well, they question everything, and I try to answer it. And then once I answer it, I realize they've questioned me, and now I actually have to go deeper and question it myself. So that's how this works. So how do we take this teaching to a deeper level? How do we take our lives to a deeper level, a richer level, where we live life from such a rich perspective that we're able to get so much more? The taste of it is deeper, is richer, is fuller, because I'm willing to go deeper, to drop deeper. That means we have to ask more important questions of ourselves. Not so much out there, of ourselves. We have to be willing to ask ourselves, what do I know in this situation? Because I'll tell you one thing, how many of you feel like you know everything? Both hands, that's good. But now let me rephrase it. How many of you in your life have ever occupied a place in time where you were one of those people who knew everything? Yeah, I'm probably hard to believe that that's who I was, but I was. Growing up, I was one of those kids that's like, I know it. Oh, don't even tell me I know how to do that. I can do this. Like the kid in Chorus Line, right? I can do that. That was me. I'm the I can do that kid. Until after all these years coming into this science, I realized the most powerful place to be is the thing I use in mental muscle all the time, which is I know nothing. Now, what can I know? I know nothing. Boy, that's it. That's being unbound. That is being disabused by all the things I think I know, and then allowing for something bigger. So Raymond Charles Barker says this: the decision to let go of that which has completed its course in your experience is even more important than the decision to welcome new ideas. Listen to it again. The decision to let go of that which has completed its course in your experience is even more important than the decision to welcome new ideas. So what has completed its use in your experience of life that you're still holding on to? And I know we all do it. I know we do it. Where something is done. It's so done for us, and yet we're still trying to live it. We're still trying to put life back into it. Did you ever hear yourself say, how come I don't feel about this the way I used to? Maybe because you're not supposed to. Maybe because you don't need to drag that feeling into this moment. That's who we are. We are living, fluid beings. And I talked this morning about, working with actors who no longer even want to act anymore. But because it's what they thought it was theirs to do, they're still doing it. And I remember having a session with one actor. I was like, so how's the acting going? Oh, it's awful. This city is an awful city to be in as an actor. The directors are a mess. The casting people are awful. You can never get a job. I don't get any auditions. And I'm sitting there going, clearly. You can't have that kind of energy about something and expect it to blossom. You can't sit there complaining about the very thing that you're doing and expect it to give you a different result. Sean quoted Ernest Holmes. You are given in precise portion exactly what you put in. That's the way it works. So what Ernest Holmes is saying is, what Raymond Charles Barker is saying is, until you can get rid of all the yeah buts in your consciousness, you don't have room for the new. Who has room for the new when we're too busy complaining about the old? And really think about disabusing yourself of thinking that there's something that is yours to do because destiny has put it there. What is destiny? There's no such thing as destiny. As Thomas Troward says, the only destiny there is for you to enjoy life. That's your destiny, to have a good time. Wouldn't that be a nice destiny? How many would like that to be their destiny? My destiny is to have a good time. Partay. That is my destiny. But that is my destiny, to enjoy life. And what a perfect monitor we have in our minds. If you're not having fun, leave. Get out of the room. Or as I say, if you're not being fed, don't go there to eat. And then complain that there's no food because you happen to be at a drugstore trying to order dinner. That's what sometimes it feels like. We're literally sitting at Home Depot trying to order a steak. Do they sell those there? You never know. So there is one line in Gary's song that is my favorite line. It's my favorite quote, and it's this: release your cringe. Did you hear that line? Release your cringe. How many of you have a really vibrant cringe? You know what a cringe is? No, you don't? I'm going to show you. Ready? That's a cringe. I'd like us all to try that together. We ready? I'm going to count to 3, and I want to see everybody cringe. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Erastus, you did not cringe. I can see you. You're in the light. One more time for Erastus. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. You still smile when you cringe. That is so cute. Here was his cringe. That's not a cringe. That was fabulous. Okay. So, that's the gay cringe. So anyway, back to the talk. So my family is all Irish Catholic, and they have a lot of cringe faces. And Kevin frequently will say, "You're doing that Mellon face," and that's what I'm going like. Eh. So now whenever he says it, now he doesn't even say. He used to say, "You're doing the Mellon face." Now he says, "Wrinkles." But you've noticed I've stopped cringing. I can't afford them. Can't afford it. So release your cringe. What that means is stop being so judgmental about your life and about everything in it. And more importantly, stop cringing about anything that happened back there. You know what? It happened. Whatever it was, whatever was said, however it showed up, you created it on some level. So be excited about how brilliant you were to create those cringeworthy moments of your life. Because with that creativity, you can now create what you want. So I love that. Release your cringe. Is that what you meant by that line? That is so cool. I think you should write a whole song called Releasing the Cringe. I'll do a theme, monthly theme. Release the cringe. That would be really funny. Okay. Now, what? You said it's like release the Kraken. Yes, release the Kraken. So, next line of his song is tell me your story. Don't leave out a word. Now, here's the thing about our stories. Every one of us is telling our story. Oh, I don't need this. This is good. Every one of us is telling our story everywhere we go. When we show up somewhere, our conversations, we are telling our story. Whether you know it or not, the minute someone meets you, they kind of know your story because your consciousness precedes you everywhere. So when you walk in a room, we know your story, and then you bother telling us your story. So how many of you can really identify, like maybe even this week when you were telling your story to someone? Yes? No one? Yeah. Okay, so we tell our story. But here's what I love about this. He says, tell me your story. I want to hear your story. Don't leave out a word. The problem is we tell our story, but we leave out a lot of words. We edit it. Thank you, Kelly. News anchor. We edit our story based on what? So we edit it because we're pushing it down. How many of you have reinterpreted a story and make it just a little better than it was? Just a little more flowery. I know, Maria. Just a little more flowery. Just a little more beautiful. There's just a little more, rose-colored glasses. Well, what Gary's suggesting and what this song is suggesting is for you to tell your story and don't leave out a word. You know why? Because as Raymond Charles Barker said, if you want something new to grow in you, get rid of all that old that you're still holding on to. And that means get rid of the story that you still are afraid to look at. Many of us have stories that we are afraid to look at. We're afraid we're going to judge it. It's going to upset us. So we just leave it there and we pretend it's something else. Release it. This is the month. You're going to be consciously creative all month. Create your story from the truth. And I mean the truth with a capital T. That means you are perfect. So anything you think is suspect and you're holding back here and like, no one's ever seeing this. No one's ever hearing this story. Release it. And don't leave out a word. Clear it all away. That's what it is to be unbound. Now, the title of my talk, is The Ties That Bind. The ties that bind. Now, there are a lot of things that tie us up, but there are also a lot of things that tie us up mentally. But I have a little story for you. So when I was a young actor in New York City, I was one of a very fortunate group of people that were chosen to be part of this workshop. And it was a workshop where they brought writers, actors, and directors together. So in this workshop was me, Sigourney Weaver, Ron Abel, who wrote Philadelphia, won the Oscar for writing Philadelphia, Sam Shepard. So all of us are in this workshop, and our job was the actors would learn, the writers would write for the actors, and the directors would come in and direct what's ever being put together for those people. So I was put in a scene with Sigourney Weaver, and it was a love scene. And Ron Abel wrote for us, so this is later Oscar winner, writing the scene. And he wrote a scene where she got to tie me up. Wasn't fun kind. It was this kind, where they tied my wrists so tight, and the scene was this intense scene. And what I didn't realize at the time, because when we started rehearsing it, I would feel these very emotional feelings, and I'm thinking, this acting class is paying off. I'm really getting in touch with my emotions. No, I do not like to be tied up. And so as I'm being tied up in this scene, the night we did the performance, she tied it just a little tighter, I guess the actor's nerves, and I'm really tied tight. And as I'm doing this, I can bring back that emotion just by doing that, because I remember not being able to move my wrists. And I'm literally having an anxiety attack in the middle of the scene in front of the entire class. I'm having this anxiety attack. I can't remember my lines, but they're sort of coming. And at the end of it all, the acting teacher, Winham, he went, "James, I think that's the best acting I've ever seen you do." I don't remember if I ever said I was having an anxiety attack, but it wasn't acting. It was really happening. And what really fascinated me was that as I was literally tied up, as I was bound, as I was literally tethered together, the untethered soul, I had trouble thinking. I had trouble putting thoughts together. I had trouble remembering what I was really supposed to be doing. I had trouble remembering my lines. So when we take it to the level of the consciousness being tied up, your consciousness being literally tied up, constricted, imagine how hard it is to remember who you are when you are literally all constricted, when you are tied up. Your thoughts, your brain, your mind, your beliefs, your consciousness. That's what goes on. in a mind that is not free, that is not unbound. Because literally, the minute that thing was cut and I was released, just imagine what your mind would do if you released it from all the things you have tied up in there, all the things you're still holding on to. Because I want to ask us all, what is it that stops us from being unbound? What stops us from walking through life with such freedom, with such abandon? What is it that stops us from being completely healthful? Completely healthful. What is it that stops us from being opulently prosperous? How many people would love to just be opulently prosperous, and not because you worked for it, because it's who you are? That's what we want, all of us. So what is it that stops us? What is binding us into some other kind of experience from being infinitely creative or from being in perfect relationship to everything? What literally gets in the way of that? So I have this quote. I wanted to look up a quote from Sam Shepard and see if there was anything that he said that I could wrap this whole thing up with. And he did. And I watched a little clip of him explaining this. So he was asked this right in the middle of his career when he was really flying high. And they asked him a question about being so in demand. What's it feel like to be so successful, to be in demand? And he said this, "I'm not in demand. I'm all washed up." You're like, what? I'm not in demand. I'm all washed up. So when he was asked about this, he explained. He said, here's the thing. He said, if I believed that I was in demand, if I believed everything they say about me, if I believed all the success they're telling me is mine, he said, that wouldn't work for me. He said, I say I'm washed up because I wash it all away and I just stay up here where I just do what's mine to do. I don't think he said mine to do, but I do what I do. And when I was looking at this clip, I was like, oh my God, this could be like Ernest Holmes giving a talk, but it was Sam Shepard, who doesn't use the same verbiage as Ernest Holmes. So he's talking about the fact that, and I think washed up to unlimited potential, he washes away all of this stuff out here that most of us go after to create, to make happen, and he just stays in his clean, untethered place where he's just allowing the work to come forward, allowing the artistic, creative essence to just come through him. So think about that. Where in your life are you so bound up, you so wound up, you are so constricted that you're not allowing that thing inside of you to really do what it's there to do? So this month, as we talk about being consciously creative, I go back to the top of Gary's song. He gave us 4 things that we could look at this week. And it's this, to open your mind, meaning you don't walk around with a closed mind. You don't walk around thinking you know about everything. You keep your mind so wide open that things that look like, things that you thought you knew suddenly surprise you. Open your mind, unfold your heart, meaning to really allow yourself to love only. Relax your senses. That means relax. How many of you would like to relax some more this week? The rest of you are like, I'm already so tired. Relax means relax your mind. That's really what it's about. Stop the monkey mind. Relax all the chatter and just allow something to come through. How many writers are in the room? Okay, so there's a handful of us. So it's very difficult to write when our minds are so filled with chatter, right? So difficult. I went last night to see the final Saturday performance of God Looked Away, which is the story of Tennessee Williams, and in his last weekend. And I've seen the show 5 times now, and it's a long play. How many of you have seen it? Yeah, so it's like 3 hours. It's a long play. But I'm mesmerized by it. I mean, it's amazing to watch Al Pacino work the way he works, and Judith Light, and all of the actors in that play. But as I was sitting there last night, and as I was watching the play, I understood something about Tennessee Williams and about about the play I was watching last night. The pacing seems a little slow to the people that know what pacing's supposed to be, but somewhere along the line in about 20 minutes of the play, That play kind of just slows you down and says, you are an intimate guest watching this happen. And that's why I feel like I was mesmerized all 5 times watching what was going on. I know they'll do work on it and such. Well, guess what? You are an intimate guest in your own life. And if you would take the position of allowing your life to unfold naturally, instead of what we're used to in our very fast world right now, which is hyperspeed, which is why I so love your decision to stop worrying, to just slow down and just be who I am. Remember who I am and see how it unfolds. So you are an intimate guest in your own life, and it is playing out at the perfect speed. Everything in your life is not only unfolding perfectly, but it's unfolding from a goodness, from a truth that is without question. That's faith. If you live at that faith, now you're unbound because you're not trying to be anything. You're not trying to make up for the makeup's over here. Make up for anything. You're not trying to be anything. You are allowing something to come through you. That's really what it means to be unbound. Open your mind, unfold your heart, relax your senses, and then the last one, feel every part of it. Be willing to feel it all. Be willing to be living your life from a place of involvement. Be that intimate audience member that is watching and paying attention to your life as it unfolds perfectly. That's what we get to do this month. And I'm so grateful to Gary for bringing this song, a song that I've heard so many times, but this particular time, it spoke to me in a very different way. We are all unbound the minute we decide to be. So have at it. Take those mental scissors and start cutting free from all the things in there that are still creating experiences in your life that you do not want to have anymore. And whatever they are, send them on their way, their highest and furthest. Namaste.